Hello, everybody. We just got done seeing the new WWE action thriller Countdown, starring Dolph Ziggler and Kane and Catherine Isabel. This was directed by John Stockwell, and this came out just a couple days after WrestleMania. And one of the unique things about this movie is that a scene in the film takes place at a stadium that's holding a WWE live event. And so there's some wrestlers in the movie that make brief cameos as themselves. And if you've seen the trailer, then you know what to expect. But the highlight of that is at one point Rusev, playing himself, holds a gun up against Dolph, and Dolph super kicks him in the face. That was awesome. But if you're hoping that the whole movie takes place at the WWE event, it doesn't. It's just a small piece of the movie. But it was kind of funny just to see all these wrestlers in there. I think it was a missed opportunity because Kane and Dolph Ziggler are in this movie playing characters. I thought it was a lost opportunity that they also didn't play themselves in kind of a meta moment, just as a dumb joke. They don't do that. But I'll say this. This movie was on its way to becoming one of the better WWE films that we've seen in the past couple years. And actually, I'd say that it is still one of the better WWE films regardless of this. There were a couple scenes in the movie that were just so out of place on its stupidity and unrealism that it really hurt an otherwise decent movie. If you take away a couple scenes, this movie was okay. Not great, but it was okay.
Yeah,
I would say it'd be worth a watch.
Better than some of the WWE films that we've seen.
I would actually say if you're a fan of WWE, it's worth a watch. If you're a fan of Dolph Ziggler and if you're a fan of Kane, but there's a couple scenes in particular that are just so stupid, and we'll get to that in a minute. But real quick, if you're wondering, Dolph Ziggler, he looks good in the part, performance wise. It's what you think. It's a wrestler. It's a wrestler playing an action star. That this certainly is not a breakout role where it's like, oh wow, Dolph is surprisingly really good. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Catherine Isabel, I really like Catherine Isabel. She's a good actress. She was a weird choice for this movie though. Just something about her did not click with this film. Her and Dolph, they're partners in the movie, and they just didn't have chemistry. I don't know. Just something about it didn't click. Kane was good. I actually thought Glenn Jacobs was pretty good as as Dolph Ziggler's boss.
Surprised he didn't actually turn out to be the villain.
Yeah, spoiler, Kane does not turn out to be the villain. What a shock that was. It was weird to see Kane in a police uniform and being just this kind
of straightforward police boss.
Yes, it was just so weird to see him there, but he was good at it. I think, this is not the first, Kane's done some movies already. He did the See No Evil movies. Kane is one of the WWE guys that I'm open to seeing in more films because he's actually pretty good at it. What was your overall takeaway?
Compared to WWE movies that we've seen in the past, I'd say that 80% of this movie was actually pretty decent compared to other WWE movies.
Yes.
But because of a couple things and, just some of the parts of this movie, like a lot of the ADR work and stuff like that,
there's some really sloppy ADR work.
I still think, in my opinion, 3 rounds is still...
12 rounds.
12 rounds.
12 rounds 3.
That's why I'm 12 rounds 3 is still probably my favorite WWE film. But this one is probably up there.
This is probably, from a production standpoint, the best looking one that we've seen in the past couple years. Even the CGI stuff looked pretty good for the most part, including some of the explosions. And the gunfire stuff looked pretty decent too. And there really wasn't, just from that pure standpoint, there really wasn't that sloppy looking production issues there. Besides the ADR work. So that looked really good. And most of the action scenes look fine. They're not, nothing really stands out. But they look fine for what they are, and it's like, okay.
Nothing in the action scenes really stands out as a
good thing.
Really good.
Yeah.
But at the same time, nothing really stands out as really bad.
Yeah, so it's fine for what it is. And so we can go in and talk about it. There's two big things I want to point out. The first one is, and this may not seem like a big deal, but when you're watching a movie and it's periodically doing this, it is a big deal. And this, I think, goes along with the bad ADR work. There is some weird dialogue and line delivery. And it's not just like, you can't just chop it up to, oh, the acting's not very good. Like, no, the acting itself, I don't think is that bad for the most part. There's just some weird line delivery. Like some of the lines that Dolph says, some of the lines that a lot of the lines that Catherine Isabel says, it's just weird. And there's a lot of scenes where people are talking or arguing, and then there's like an awkward period of silence, and then the scene just ends. And you're like, why did the conversation go that way?
And there's a lot of stuff like that too, where there will be like a scene or like a part of a scene that really makes absolutely no sense. Like,
yes.
Why was that even in the movie?
Yes.
Like, what did that accomplish? Was
there's
that
a
supposed to tell us something?
There's a random scene, because again, Catherine Isabel and Dolph Ziggler are partnering up, and so at one point they're driving separate cars, and then they park somewhere and go do some investigating, and there's this pointless scene where they go back to their cars, and Dolph Ziggler's truck is gone, and Dolph's like, "Are you kidding me? My truck got stolen?" And then he just starts riding with Catherine Isabel.
There's like a scene
where this never comes back into the film.
Mm-hmm.
There was no reason for that scene other than, I guess, to have Catherine and Dolph drive in the same car together. Like, it was so random. And there was no reason for it. So there's just a lot of little scenes like that. So, sorry, what were you gonna say?
Or like another scene where they're really quickly racing somewhere, and there's just this random guy crossing the street with his bike, and they almost hit him, and they're like, "Oh, come on, man!" And then boom, that's done. That's the end of the scene. It's like, what was the point of that?
And like, I guess the idea is that, like, well, it's to show how much of a hurry they are to stop the countdown. But it's like, the whole movie is about that. We don't need little bits like that because it just makes it seem out of place. So just little things, like, that's the thing. This movie, with the exception of the one scene that we're going to bring up in a minute here, there really isn't anything big to criticize about, just a lot of little things, which is why I say this is easily one of the better WWE action films. But there's one action scene, and it's about give or take about halfway into the film, and it's not, I want to say this, the action scene itself is not bad. Like, what the action that they do and all that, it's not even that bad. It's not even that necessarily, like, hard to believe. What's hard to believe is the situation that Dolph Ziggler's in. So we'll go ahead and paint this scene for you. So do you want to go ahead and explain it real quick?
Okay, so basically they went and they found out that a member of the
Russians are bad guys in this movie, by the way.
All the bad guys are Russians. And so Dolph figured out that one of the people at the Russian consulate has something to do with this. So he goes to the Russian consulate in Seattle and just walks in and
walks through the metal detector, Matrix style,
and just starts beating up all the guards in the Russian embassy.
Yeah.
And he's beating up all the guards.
And there's only three of them, by the way.
Yeah, there's only three of them in the Russian consulate. And he's, like, beating up all the guards or whatever and, like, going through the place, like get down, and stuff like that. And then he goes upstairs, goes into the Russian ambassador to the United States' office, and he starts torturing him.
Jack Bauer style.
Like,
yeah. Now, look, I know, and by the way, he gets away with this. Now, I know that seems like a nitpick. It's like, and I know for a lot of people, it's like, well, I don't care about that. And look, for most people, this isn't going to bother them. The only reason,
the Russians are bad.
If it wasn't the Russian embassy, this would not be a big deal. If this was like,
if it had been like, you know, like a Russian mob gang place or something like that. Like, this gang leader knows something about it, so he went in and he beat up a bunch of gang.
Or if it was like, if it was just like a smaller politician that was more local, maybe like a corrupt politician, and it was like, I don't know, like the mayor or something. maybe it'd be more believable. It just seems so like underwhelmingly easy how Dolph does
I know,
this.
and it's just like, you know, like I know that national politics don't play a part in
I
these
know
movies and
WWE
stuff
doesn't
like
give
that,
a crap about that. Yeah.
He walks in and he literally declares war on Russia.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just so silly.
Yeah. And again, the thing is that like it would be more believable too if it was more like Dolph walks in, he doesn't have a gun on him, so the metal detector doesn't go off. He doesn't beat up any guards, and he just requests to have a meeting with the guy. And then when he's alone with him, that's when he starts torturing the guy.
That would have made a little bit more sense.
That would have made way more sense. It would have been way more believable. But the idea that this guy single-handedly breaks into the embassy, fights 3 guards, and gets away with it scotch-free, and it never comes back into the film. It just felt so out of place.
Even if he went and he saved the kid in the end, and, you know, yay, hooray, he still broke into the Russian embassy and tortured the Russian ambassador. The ends do not justify the means there, and he would still be in jail for the rest of his life.
And again, to go back to compare this to something like, because you could argue like, well, that's like something Jack Bauer would do. That's true. Jack Bauer though would do it because he would be stopping a major terrorist attack from killing like millions of people or thousands of people. This is to save one boy. Not to say that doesn't matter, but like you said, the ends would not justify the means in comparison. If we were to compare this to like 24, where Jack would do something extremely illegal in the name of saving lives, like it just doesn't match up. But here's the thing: there really is not, even though there's a lot of unrealistic scenes in this movie, there's not another scene in the film that's that ridiculous. There's a scene where he breaks out of the police station and beating up cops, and not even that goes as ridiculous as this.
It's pretty ridiculous, but
it's ridiculous, though.
It's still somewhat believable.
Yes. Because there's multiple cops.
Because he has to go through multiple cops to get away.
Yes. And, yeah, exactly.
And even Kane.
Yeah, he has to fight Kane. Yeah. I liked that. I wish they had more time focusing on Kane. But, yeah, I have to say, besides, I mean, I know, again, if you hear us describe that scene and you think, well, that I don't give a crap, that doesn't bother me. Besides that scene, I would recommend this movie. If you're a fan of WWE, I'd recommend this movie. Yes, it's dumb fun.
The whole part when they're in the WWE thing was pretty like meta funny. Like,
it was funny.
I was kind of laughing at that.
I will say, from a nitpick standpoint, they took footage of what was clearly a untelevised house show, and they mixed it with footage of Monday Night Raw with Brock Lesnar coming out. So it was just so weird. And then they also took footage of they showed backstage footage of wrestlers warming up, and it was clear that a lot of this footage is old. Because, for example, you see Daniel Bryan warming up, who's now retired. You see Dean Ambrose warming up, but he's in his Shield gear. The Shield broke up in 2014, so that footage was 2 years old. Like, there's just some random, like, footage from all over the place.
And also, for another nitpick, I just say it really disappointed me that they didn't have Dolph Ziggler
as Dolph Ziggler.
Yes. Like,
or Kane as Kane.
Yeah, like meeting themselves or something like that.
They could have done something.
That would have been funny.
It would have been funny. But the Rusev thing was pretty funny, though. Dolph Ziggler super kicking Rusev holding a gun is pretty funny.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, I mean, I guess I'm giving it a decent, for a WWE directed film, it's a decent movie.
Yeah.
Just that one scene and just some really weird moments in there. It is a fast movie though, so I can't hate on the movie. So it's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah.
So thanks for listening. We'll have some more reviews up soon.